I'd like to call this meeting to order. Adoption of agendas, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that Council adopt the agendas as published on January 16, 2020, and any and all revisions published January 20th and January 21st, 2020.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. As this is the first meeting of the new year, on behalf of City Council and all our staff members, I hope that everyone had a safe and happy holiday and a great start to 2020. January is Crime Stoppers Month. Councillor Sentence and Councillor Kenny participated in the flag-raising ceremony on January 3rd to acknowledge the tremendous support of the community, Niagara Regional Police Services, and the media in helping Crime Stoppers achieve success. Not only can you call in a tip by phoning the call center at 1-800-222-TIPS, 8477, but you can submit a tip through the website at www.crimestoppersniagara.ca. Crime Stoppers Niagara offers cash rewards to persons who call or submit a tip to the program with information that leads to an arrest. January 8th, Councillor Sentence attended the signing celebration of the expanded health science collaboration agreement between McMaster University and Brock University. He also attended the annual Paint the Meridian Red night for university basketball on January 11th. On January 17th, I attended the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authorities and the 81st Annual Marine Club Dinner in Toronto. Commander of the Canadian Coast Guard, Jeffrey Hutchison, was the guest speaker. The TAA will be hosting the Henderson Pharmacy Tournament from Friday, January 24th through Sunday, January 26th at the Thorold Arenas. That is this weekend. This is the biggest tournament of the year in Thorold. The number of teams in this tournament, a local league tournament, is more than any other tournament during the year. So get out and support minor hockey this weekend. Council will hold budget meetings starting tomorrow, Wednesday, January 22nd at 6:30. Meetings are also scheduled to take place on January 28th, that's the following Wednesday, and following Tuesday, and 29th, the following Wednesday, to discuss items pertaining to the 2020 budget if required. Our next council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. And that's the end of my mayor's report. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act. What? Oh, excuse me. Adoption of the minutes. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor DeRose that the regular and council and General Committee meeting minutes of December 17th, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any declarations of interest again? Seeing none. Public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act. Proposed housekeeping amendment to the City of Thorold Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60-2019. Housekeeping amendment to correct textual errors and omissions to Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60-2019, D14-13-2019. Opening remarks and the purpose of the meeting and intent of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. This public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended. The purpose and effect of the housekeeping amendment is to correct textual errors and omissions to the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60-2019. A sign-in sheet is located at the back if you wish to receive a copy of the decision of City Council. Presentation from City staff. Denise Landry, Manager of Planning Services. Would you please come to the podium?
Good evening. I'm going to provide you a brief overview of a housekeeping amendment that we have for Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60/2019. In May of 2019, Council approved a new comprehensive zoning bylaw for all of the lands within the city of Thorold, and that was to implement the new 2016 official plan. The bylaw was then subsequently appealed by a few appellants to the local planning appeal tribunal. Staff are currently using both the old bylaw, so 2140-97, which is our 1997 bylaw, as well as the new bylaw, 60/2019, as we don't know exactly when the new bylaw will take effect. Over the past few months, and since May, while using the new zoning bylaw, staff have noted textual errors and omissions within the bylaw. So as a result of this, an amendment to the bylaw has been drafted and initiated, and it is before you this evening. The proposed amendment was circulated to internal departments and agencies as per the Planning Act. It was also advertised in Niagara this week. No objections have been received by internal departments, agencies, or any members of the public. In terms of next steps, staff have prepared a recommendation report and the implementing bylaw to be considered at tonight's general committee and council meeting. If there are no appeals to the amendment will take effect when the new zoning bylaw is approved by the local planning appeal tribunal. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Denise? Seeing none, I thank you for your presentation, Denise. Public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act. Zoning bylaw amendment. Any of the following, no later than 20 days after given notice, may appeal the decision by filing with the city the notice of appeal that must set out the reasons for the appeal, accompanied by the tribunal's fee. The applicant, a person or public body who, before the bylaw was passed, made oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to council, the minister. If a person or public body did not make any oral submission at a public meeting or provide written submissions to council before the bylaw was passed, the tribunal will determine if there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. That's it.
So now it's time if there's anyone from the public.
Now, at this time, if there is anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of the application, please come forward to the podium. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Please come forward to the podium. One last time, if there's anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of the application, please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward to the podium. Anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of the application, please come forward to the podium. And one last time, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, pursuant to Section 34. The city's general committee will consider staff's recommendation report at tonight's meeting. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of City Council's decision is asked to submit the request in writing to the city clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. There is no civic recognition, presentations, or motions for support. Statement by councilors. If I got up first. Up first, runway of recognition, Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder to everybody that on March 31st, great event happening at John Michael's. We're going to recognize a vast array of Thorold former athletes and some present athletes. Great night to be there, so we're trying to push ticket sales. I have some tickets with me tonight if any councilors want to purchase them. Just a list of some, it's great because it goes across a couple generations of Thorold citizens. Errol McGibbon, the late Phil Persia, the 1970-71 midget hockey team, Ryan Saravelli, Paul Cicchini, Bill Maher, Tim Whalen, one of my favorite people, Julia Longo, Randy Gazzola, and the Thorold BB Bantam hockey team of last year. So it's going to be a great night for $20. There's not much of a dinner you can get anywhere else, and it's a really good dinner at John Michael. So hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. It's an excellent evening, and I look forward to it. Put a ticket away for me. I definitely will be going. Up next, Councillor Hanley, tender documents for Canada Summer Games.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that a motion or it had been discussed on December 17th. I wasn't here in regards to the tender documents, and then I read the response that we received back from Doug Hamilton. I don't know, I wasn't here, but I'm thinking that the Canada Games park procurement policy, as stated, was a confidential process, and I agree with 110%. But I think council's request may have been, if not, I want to ask, was the intended was to get the final tender cost as won by Acrocon. And in other words, what is the amount of the bid by Acrocon that was agreed to by the Canada Games Society? I'm asking that, and I'm going to put a motion forward, because public procurement, will my bid remain confidential? One of the concerns bidders often have submitting tenders for public contracts is whether other bidders would be able to obtain access to their confidential pricing information and other commercially sensitive information. This is an issue which generally crops up in two situations: freedom from information requests and challenges under the public contracts regulations. Under that, bidders in the public bodies need, they state, to be alive of potential impact of Freedom of Information Act, and in particular, bidders should make sure they mark all confidential information clearly in their bids, although this may not mean the information is definitely exempt from disclosure. Public bodies should ensure that invitation to tender documents include appropriate FYI warnings and put the onus on bidders to identify commercially sensitive information. And on receipt of Freedom of Information request, public bodies should promptly consult with the bidders affected to consider whether any of the exemptions apply. But the procurement policy's done with now. And because of that, all public bodies are subject to the Freedom of Information Act 2000, and this means that they're obliged to disclose information in their possession to members of the public if requested, subject to the various exemptions contained in the Act. And there's nothing in the Act that says that those documents should not be public information. In regards to that, basically what it comes down to is bid evaluation, and the evaluation takes into account the offered price, how much Acrocon is saying they're going to do the work for, payment terms, I get so much work done, you pay me so much so I can continue on with the work, efficiency, what's your time frame, when you're going to do it, and effectiveness of the product offered and the bidder's past performance, which I knew they took that into account. After the bid evaluation process based on the above criteria, the lowest bidder may be recommended, and if not kept confidential, the bidder or bidders may unsuccessfully intervene the evaluation process. So for the sake of transparency and fairness, the bid shall be kept confidential till finalization. I think it's been finalized. Also, some unsuccessful bidders may request information about where their bid fell short. The sponsor, the Canada Games Committee, should be careful to ensure that information about any bids that may be sensitive is not released until the project has reached technical close, which I think it has, and such information should remain confidential until the contract has been finalized and signed. It is important to note, though, and bear in mind that the procurement policy has not finished until that point has been reached, and I believe those points have been reached. So I wanted to put them.
Well, let's get some feedback from staff. I'll ask Manoj and then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the motion was, on the 17th of December, the motion was passed to get the information from Canada Summer Games. I forwarded that to them, and they were not very clear what we are asking for, so we
My
met with...
motion, I think, will make it clear.
Yeah, sure. So what we did is we met with them, we explained to them that whatever you have gone through your procurement process, we are interested in finding it out what the price was and what the financial details were. So I have forwarded the response to what we received from Doug Hamilton to all council members. What he was saying is that the process that they have followed, procurement process, was a confidential process.
That's right. The procurement policy, the procurement process is always confidential as to not release trade secrets.
That's right.
And if you want to check it out, Rankin actually lost the contract. I didn't want to get into it on the 406, and they took the process to court as to which way it fell into the reasoning, and they lost. Not to get into the technical things of it, but I'm asking that the tender documents be released, and another factor is that because on May the 21st, 2019, it was quoted at $98.8 million in this room. When the provincial government made their donation, and it's online, the Minister of Heritage, Culture and Tourism, the 2021 Games has already raised significant funding, and the Games themselves will cover $47 million to projected $105 million. On December 3rd here, it was now $111 million, and I think the taxpayers have the right to know what was that number that they said they were going to do the project for. Why can't we know that? And I don't believe it's confidential information. This is a publicly, totally, 100% publicly funded project. It's not private. That's our concern. So no, it's not like nitpicking, but I think because we have a vested interest as a council, we should have that information brought forward. And I want to put a motion on the floor that's seconded by Councillor DeRose.
So just, sorry, Councillor Henley, through you, Mr. Mayor. So what they have said, they come back to us, as you said.
I know what they said.
Right? And then second thing, they said that the whole fairness, the process
That's right.
has been done in a... So what you're asking for is the total bid price that has been awarded to Aquacon. Is that what you're asking?
That's right, because when it's in the procurement part of it,
course.
not to get technical, I don't want to know how many tons of stone they're bringing in, what's the cost of the aggregate, and what their figure is, and how much steel they're going to use. That's when the procurement policy is confidential because they're trade secrets. Once the contract's been finalized, it's been signed, and the technical issue of it's been done, that tender amount is public knowledge. Why will they not let the actual tender amount be known? He sat here on December the 3rd and stated that he didn't know, but yet in the next morning, they honored the contract on December the 4th. Okay. So the number is knowing what the tender document actual price is. I think we have a right to know.
Do you have anything you want to add, Jeff?
Nobody knows the answer. That's the thing. See, nobody's getting the answer. So I want to bring a motion forward, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor DeRose. Whereas the taxpayer and the citizens of Thorold have a vested interest in the Canada Games facilities, and whereas public funds are the sole contributing factor to the Canada Games facilities, and whereas the total tender amount for the Canada Games facilities, inclusive of all projects, be submitted with and in full disclosure, and whereas Council, as well as the taxpayers and citizens, have the right to have the full tender amount released publicly. Therefore, be resolved that the Canada Games Society, executive, directors, board chair, or whom may be in position of authority, release to the Council for the Corporation of the City of Thorold the final bid document cost / tender cost / winning bid cost / for all Canada Games projects as per the motion herein. And I believe we have a right to know. They've never answered questions, how much is going to Canada Games for the Henley, how much is going here, and in all honesty, what's the harm of not knowing? Why can't we know the number? It's public information. And I'm asking through Council, before I have to go to, like through the Freedom of Information Act or whatever process for it, it shouldn't be confidential information. It should be public knowledge. It was 120 million, 115, excuse me, but that's my motion.
Any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yes. When the question was asked to Mr. Hamilton, did he say he was going to give us those exact numbers at a certain time because there's still modifications being done and it's still, the cost is still being worked on?
far as I know. And that's why the final numbers are still not fully there yet.
If I may intervene.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the meeting that we had with Mr. Hamilton was last week, and the contract has been awarded to Equocon. So if he's saying that it is confidential, that's what we got from him, because the response came from him on the 20th or 19th, I guess. So what we can do is, if council so wishes to go ahead with the motion that comes forward and see what he can do, we have no control over them. We can certainly talk to them that this is the council's desire to get this information from you, and if they want to share it, that's fine. I don't think so. We, from staff perspective, we have any. We can twist their arms to get that information. Thank you.
If I can on that. The tender document would be a final quote, and then on there would be contingencies, contingent upon this, contingent upon this. That would change the costing for the project, but that would already be written into the contract. Man hours plus, that's how they work it.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a fair question for council. We're going to have to do the calculation to figure out what the capital contribution is going to be anyways. So we'll continue to work with them. I really don't think they have the contract finalized yet. There's still some last-minute changes that are taking place between Brock and the host society. So I would expect we could have a final number in the next a couple of weeks, the next couple of meetings. But I would think that we're going to need that number moving ahead with our operating agreements and
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Senior of the Year Award. Councillor Neal, are you the Senior of the Year?
I'm always a Senior of the Year. I had my birthday yesterday, so.
Happy birthday.
I'm 59 and holding, so I'm not a senior yet. Anyways, Mr. Mayor, the City of Thorold, the Age-Friendly Committee, and the Thorold Senior Citizens Association have partnered to honor a male and female senior who are 65 and older that have made an outstanding voluntary contribution to enrich the social, cultural, and civic life of our community. Nominations are being brought forward now, and from January 13th through to March 23rd, anyone could pick up a nomination form from the following places: the Thorold Seniors, City Hall, the Thorold Public Library, the Thorold Arena, and the Thorold Community Activities Group. So that's the new 2020 Senior Citizens of the Year Awards, and anyone can nominate a senior for that purpose.
Are you eligible for it?
No. No, I'm still too young. Anyways, that's
item one.
That's item.
Everybody's taking that information. That's very important, and it's always a great event in June.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. The second item that I have on the agenda is the federal government has a tree planting program, and I forget, it's between 500 million and 2 billion trees that they want to plant. And I know that our staff have worked at it for a little while as far as putting a plan together, but I think we should move forward with it. And the Mouse Fort Committee met the other day and are going to plant some trees in the Mouse Fort Park with Accenture and other residents on Earth Day. And it would be nice to have a tree planting plan that we could partner with the community in planting trees for the city of Thorold. So I have a motion I'd like to put forward to have staff develop a plan to partner with the community to plant a number of trees that the federal government will donate to us.
When's Earth Day?
Earth Day is April, about the wrong, or April the 20th. 21st?
So we have a motion on the floor. You want to repeat that motion, please,
Yes,
Councilor?
to have staff develop a plan to partner with the community to plant trees for the foreseeable future.
And that's through the federal government
Through the federal
program?
government's
Okay.
plan.
And I have a seconder. Councilor
I'll
Durrell?
second it, but I just had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Durrell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Fred, is it just for public properties, city properties, or individuals? Can individuals, like I've got an acre, so could I request?
I'm sure that if you approached Vance Badaway, that the program is more than just through the municipalities and that type of thing.
Thank you, thank you.
Ask would be.
Right, thank you.
So we have that motion. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And there may be another option out there as well that we can look at is CN Rail is also have a tree planting program where they donate trees to municipalities as well. So we may be able to see if they have anything that we may be able to tap in. Thank you very much. And that's Councillor Kenny.
I think that Earth Day is, it looks like it's during the week this year. Maybe we can, if we get enough in the, for the community to get involved, maybe we can get the high schools involved and plant a lot of trees, you know what I mean? Using some of their students for the day somehow.
Good. And that's it for statement, right? Okay, and that's it for statement by councilors. Do we have any notices of motion? Seeing none, we'll resolve into general committee. And I'll call general committee to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, there's no delegations. Call for reports to be brought forward from consent. Is there anyone that wants to bring a consent motion forward? Seeing none, can I get a mover to move the reports on consent? Councillor Wilson.
So move the reports.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Discussion reports. PWC S 2020-01, Construction on Public Lands Policy Update, and can I get a mover for that report first? Councillor Sentence, and then I'll turn that over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that council approve the proposed amendments to the city's encroachment policy respecting existing construction and/or landscaping extending onto municipal rights-of-way and municipal property. 2, that council approve and adopt the proposed roadway and public lands occupancy policy respecting new construction and/or temporary use of municipal rights-of-way and municipal property. And 3, that staff prepare the necessary bylaws for council's consideration at a future meeting.
Okay, any discussion on that report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PDS 2020-01, report regarding Thorold 2019 development charges exemption review, and I'll turn that over to our Director of Planning, Richard.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendations are that Planning and Development Services Report PDS 220-01 be received, and that the development charge exemption bylaw to implement Council's direction of November 19th, 2019, and the findings of the Thorold 2019 development charge exemption review revision December 2019 resulting from that direction, and Council's direction re nonprofit housing of December 17th, 2019 is available for Council's consideration.
Okay, do I have anyone that'd like to ask any questions on that report? Councilor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Richard. Richard, so from what I'm reading here, the Thorold nonprofit project will be exempt from development charges?
That is correct.
Okay, and back to my favorite question about development charges. We can't just waive development charges. but do we now need to find money to pay for this exemption or waiver, or because it's an exemption, we don't have to worry about it?
I'll turn that over to the Director of Finance.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you're correct. If it's not a waiver, if there is an exemption that's built into the DC bylaw, then you don't have to make up the funds.
Perfect, that was easy, thank you.
Does that answer your questions, Councillor Longo? Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PDS 2020-03, Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60, 2019 Housekeeping Amendment Recommendation Report, file D14-13-2019. And again, I turn this over to our Acting Director of Planning, Richard.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that the Planning and Development Services Report, PDS 220-03, be received, and that zoning bylaw amendment initiated by the city to correct textual errors and omissions to Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60, 2019 be approved, and that the bylaw to implement the zoning bylaw amendment be forwarded to council for approval.
Do we have any questions regarding that? Any questions? Yeah. And I need a mover for that report. Councillor Neal.
So moved.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carry. PDS 2020-04, report regarding an arrangement for monies to secure the Canada Summer Games site plan. And again, I'll turn this over to our Acting Director of Planning.
The recommendation is that the Planning and Development Services Report, PDS 2020-4, be received, and that council approve an arrangement in the site plan to secure the site works for a holdback of $1,166 as the amount of the required security from the city's Canada Summer Games payment until this complex is substantial.
Okay, can I get a mover for that report? Councillor Hanley, speakers to the report. Okay. Does everybody understand that? That's another cost savings for the city?
Well, it's so that if work isn't done or completed, then we have the necessary funds to go in and complete the works.
That's good. And, okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, do we want to go to one camera, or do we want to,
You can pass the minutes first if you want.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll go back into, before we go in camera, we're going to go back into regular council to approve council committee and board meeting minutes. Minutes to review for information purposes. I got Councillor Kenny.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Neal, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council, local boards as presented.
Okay, are there anyone that wants to speak on any or any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we're going to move back into general committee, and we're going to go in camera. In accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is related to a solicitor-client privilege. Could I have a motion to move into closed session? I've got Councillor Decker to discuss Director of Planning and Building Services verbal report on the zoning bylaw LPAT appeal, to adapt the minutes of the in-camera general committee meeting minutes of November 5th, 2019, and to adapt the minutes of the in-camera general committee meeting minutes of December 17th, 2019. And we'll now go into in-camera.